Hey traders from around the world, what's going on? It's me, Jeremy Alexander Newsome with your Monday Real Life Stock Review. Hope you're absolutely doing wonderful, and I do trust you had a stupendous weekend. Got back from Atlanta late last night, enjoyed the beer fest with a few of my bros, had a good old time. So, earnings season, it's cranking up, ramping up, and it's here in full force. Let's talk about some of the stocks that we're going to be looking at this week for earnings. Right now, this is the SPY, and the SPY 212.28 is a very, very strong support. We've bounced off of that before numerous times. Oops, something's going on with my chart. Okay, there we go. So very, very good support there. That's where we bounce off there, and we're getting a little bit of a lower shadow right now. So what's very interesting is coming into earnings, coming into the election, there's a few choices here that one could consider looking at some longer-term bearish positions with put options, and by longer term, I just mean regular November puts. I mentioned that yesterday on Friday that you could be considering some 212, 213 November put options, and while you're owning those options, buy some calls off of some supports to really just be legging into some straddle strangles. Because yes, we're still in the middle of October. There's a lot left here. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, I mentioned that if we break out of this wedge pattern right here, we would want, and I would look for a retest before getting in bearish. That retest did occur on Friday. So, if you're looking at a little bit more of a short-term bearish move, I totally get it. I absolutely understand. I'm with you. However, this 212.28, very good level. Whatever we do, if we trade all the way back down to here, whatever the pullback that we get, whatever size that we get, will be a healthy retracement. And I do think for the long-term outlook, 1 to 2 years, nothing is changing right now. Still looking bullish. Here's your weekly time frame. Weekly looks pretty good. Looks like we broke out of that level. So yeah, bottom line, I'm very excited to see if we're going to bounce off the 212.28, probably starting tomorrow. If you are wanting to be in a little bit of a longer term bearish position with a little bit of a shorter term bullish position, that also makes a lot of sense to me just in case. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But of course, if you're like, Jeremy, I don't really know what I want to do. Well, nothing is always an option. Just keep that in mind. Here's the Qs, QQQ, a little bit of a small move, nothing really crazy going on. Again, a pretty good bullish candle on Thursday. Right now, just hanging out in the Qs, not a lot happening. IWM. So again, the IWM, ladies and gentlemen, is at another support. So I can't fight the fact that, yes, as much as I would like the market to maybe go a little bit lower, that we are at some supports on the IWM and the SPY. Your IWM here, you got the 100 simple moving average at 119.96. You got the support line there at 19.99. I'm looking at considering some 121 October week 4 calls. I'll be keeping a close eye on it just to see what they end up doing. Right now they're trading about 117, but I'll be watching them as we progress a little bit into the near future, and we'll just kind of see what happens overall. Speaking of weekly calls, the next weekly options newsletter will be going out tomorrow, and it likely, potentially, will be featuring this guy. Just depends on what it does, but here's Netflix, ladies and gentlemen. Netflix coming out with earnings very soon, tonight, if I'm not mistaken, after hours. And what I'm thinking on Netflix is if we gap down into this general vicinity, I'm going to be more bullish than bearish. And if we gap up into this vicinity, I'm going to be more bullish than bearish. So we'll kind of see what's going on, and we'll keep a close eye on what happens. Stan has got himself a 109 covered call. Dean has a 110 covered call. A few traders got some put sales going over earnings. Put sales meaning they're selling puts down here because they do not mind owning some shares. Bottom line, watching Netflix very closely. Here's your weekly chart. In the weekly chart, if Netflix gaps up strongly, will be a bullish gap, and I will be looking at playing it bullish. 100 simple moving averages at 91.76. So just like last time, if it gaps down into there, I'll be looking for that as a support level. So Netflix, going to be very interesting to see exactly what transpires on that. But ladies and gentlemen, we will be knowing that very soon, what's going to be happening. Hasbro, ticker symbol HAS. Hasbro has a very nice bullish gap on earnings. This is the weekly chart. Big bullish gap and go. Here's the daily chart. And Latoya was watching this one all morning and just didn't quite get the numbers that she wanted on it. Bottom line, it opened out a strong moving average, broke through it quickly in the morning, and traded to the next moving average, which was the target, the 100 simple moving average on the daily chart. Here was a little bit of resistance line. So yeah, pretty much Hasbro made it to a target. Really good gap though. For anyone looking at playing this, you could look for more bullish, longer term strategy, bullish to neutral. I do like the gap. I like the volume. The trend looks bullish. I don't have an exact trade on Hasbro, but that's what I got on my docket. VRX, slow, slippery slope to zero. I've been mentioning that a few times. It's likely going to keep going lower. I don't see any reason for it to really stop or pause until, at least 20 bucks more than likely. And then from there, maybe a little bit of a bounce. But ladies and gentlemen, still can't find any reason to go bullish on VRX fundamentally or technically. Here's Tesla, TSLA. Tesla looks like it broke out this little bit of a pennant pattern. So Tesla breaking down, trade a little bit lower. It is kind of at a target. So Maurizio was actually asking me what I think about that support right there. And I mentioned for this one to have any more bearish activity, it needs to close below that green line today, which I don't think is going to happen. But bottom line is if Tesla can make it down a little bit lower, there's some really good support down here. The 200 simple on a weekly, which we have bounced off of before, is here at 190.49. So yes, keeping an eye on Tesla down here for potentially a longer term or shorter term buy low, sell high kind of a setup on Tesla. Again, earnings on that and not too near a distant future. Apple, ladies and gentlemen, so for those of you who do subscribe to the Weekly Options newsletter, we did have a bullish trade trigger in on Apple, and we got out yesterday being Friday, for a gain. So Apple was a Weekly Options newsletter set up. We got triggered in Thursday, that day right there, got out Friday. Boom, for really a pretty solid, decent ROI on the actual investment itself. So overall, 50-50, still at a small loss from the weekly options themselves, from the Qs and the Apple trade, but another thing coming out tomorrow. This trade's looking good. For anyone who does have shares, I like this is a nice pennant pattern. One could consider a 1:30 November covered call. You still got plenty of time until earnings actually comes out on Apple if you want to wait until that time. But really, 130 is going to be a very strong resistance. Let's go look at two more here. So Delta and then Sears. Delta, ticker symbol DAL, on a long-term level is the only way to look at this thing, I feel like. Bouncing off the 200 simple moving average on the weekly, it kind of appears this breakout of a triangle of sorts. Here's the breakout, here's the retest, and if we come back to the daily, it looks like it's getting stuck between the 100 and the 200 simple moving average and probably hangs out there for a little bit. So this particular juncture, if you're in some shares of Delta, well, one could do another covered call, sit back, relax, get your dividends, get your covered call premium, and see if Delta is going to bounce off this 39.41 level. Last but not least, Sears, keeping a close eye on Sears down here. Believe it or not, for just a potential quick bullish bounce. If it can break above $10.90, it's bounced off this level before and ran bullish. Could happen again. Looking for some calls on Sears. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for watching the Monday Real Life Stock Review. I appreciate it. I will see you guys on Wednesday. And until then, remember, love life, live life, and trade it. See ya.